everyone, and welcome to this video going over the Deep Wound status effect. Before getting into it, I want to give a quick shout out to Afterlight MC, Toddy Bacon Jr., Enter a Profile Name, and Let You Be Right for helping me get some of the footage I needed in order to make this video possible. Now, what is the Deep Wound status effect? The Deep Wound status effect applies only to survivors, and unlike other status effects, it is not represented by a symbol on the right-hand side of your screen. Instead, it is represented by this orange bar under the affected survivor's name in the profiles in the bottom left corner, as well as this more bloody and less saturated looking screen. This orange bar represents the amount of time that survivor has until they go into the dying state. The amount of time varies depending on what causes the Deep Wound status effect. Only the survivors can see how much time is left on a Deep Wound timer, as you can see here. On the killer's side, they will see the bar indicating the survivor has Deep Wound, but they cannot see how much time is left until they go into the dying state. If the survivor goes into the dying state, they will scream and reveal their location to the killer. In order to prevent yourself from going into the dying state, you must complete a new action called Mend. You can mend yourself, or another survivor can mend you as well. Mending pauses the bleed out timer, and it takes about 12 seconds to complete the mend action. If there is another survivor mending you, then it takes about 8 seconds to complete. Mend progress is always saved, so you can continue it later if you need to run during the bleed out timer. An important thing to know about the Deep Wound timer is that it will pause while the afflicted survivor is sprinting. So make sure to keep a close eye on your Deep Wound timer if you have one. The mending on the Deep Wound status effect cannot be increased by any survivor perks or items. Now that you know what Deep Wound is, let's see what causes it. The survivor perk Borrowed Time, which is one of Bill's unique perks, has the Deep Wound status effect built into it. Borrowed Time says, after unhooking a survivor within the killer's terror radius, they gain the Endurance status effect for 15 seconds. Any damage taken that would put the unhooked survivor into the dying state will instead apply the Deep Wound status effect. The survivor has 10, 15, or 20 seconds to mend themselves. If the unhooked survivor takes any damage while affected by Deep Wound, or if the Deep Wound timer ends, the unhooked survivor is immediately put into the dying state. Now there is one more survivor perk that can apply Deep Wound, and that is Cheryl Mason's unique perk, Soul Guard. It says, gain the Endurance status effect for 4, 6, or 8 seconds after being healed or having recovered from the dying state. During this time, any damage that will put you into the dying state will instead apply Deep Wounds. You have 20 seconds to mend yourself. If you take any damage while afflicted by Deep Wounds, or if the timer ends, you are immediately put into the dying state. While cursed by a hex, you can fully recover from the dying state. I quickly want to elaborate a bit on this perk, what it means by gain the Endurance status effect after being healed. It means only if you are healed from the dying state to the injured state. It will not give you Endurance from being healed from injured to healthy. Now those are all the perks that currently apply the Deep Wound status effect, but the survivors do have one more thing that can apply Deep Wound to them. And that is the very rare medkit add-on, Styptic Agent. It says press the secondary action button while healing with the medkit to use the Styptic Agent. When the Styptic Agent is used on an injured survivor, they gain the Endurance status effect for 8 seconds. Any damage taken during that time that would put the survivor into the dying state will instead apply the Deep Wound status effect. The survivor has 20 seconds to mend themselves. If the survivor takes any damage while affected by Deep Wound, or if the Deep Wound timer ends, the survivor is immediately put into the dying state. Consumes the medkit on use. Now let's see how killers can apply Deep Wound to survivors. The Legion has Deep Wound built into their power. Just to sum up their power quickly, they press the ability button to activate Feral Frenzy. While Feral Frenzy is active, they run faster, can vault windows and pallets, and their hit attacks will apply the Deep Wound status effect.
Unlike Borrowed Time, the timer of the Legion's deep wound is 30 seconds, and the Legion cannot see blood or scratch marks while Feral Frenzy is active.
Once they hit a survivor, it resets the duration of Feral Frenzy, and any survivors in the terror radius will have their locations revealed. If they hit a survivor that has deep wound on them already, it will reset all their current mend progress, and the Legion's power will be cancelled immediately and then causes fatigue. Their power is also cancelled if they miss an attack, and the Legion always gets fatigued when Feral Frenzy ends.
Whenever the Legion lands a normal hit on a survivor, 50% of Feral Frenzy's progress is removed.
The Legion has some add-ons that can modify the deep wound status effect.
First we have the very rare Filthy Blade moderately increases the amount of time required for survivors to complete the mend action. This add-on does not stack, and if you're wondering how long it takes to mend with this, well, it makes mending take about 14 seconds to complete. Next is their rare Nasty Blade, which slightly increases the amount of time required for survivors to complete the mend action. This add-on does not stack, and it makes mending take about 13 seconds. The Legion's very rare add-on Frank's Mixtape allows Feral Frenzy attacks to considerably reduce a survivor's deep wound timer. This add-on does not decrease the base time of the deep wound status effect. So the first time you hit a survivor with Feral Frenzy when using this add-on, they will have the normal 30-second timer of deep wound on them. But if you hit that survivor again with your Feral Frenzy, then it will take out a chunk of time from the deep wound timer. So the purpose of this add-on is basically to just reduce that timer even more forcibly on survivors. And when using this add-on, it is possible to down a survivor that has deep wound on them with Feral Frenzy. And finally, we have the very rare Stab Wounds Study, which moderately decreases the deep wound timer of all survivors.
You can tell this add-on is in effect because when the Legion hits you with Feral Frenzy, some of the deep wound timer will already be depleted.
The second killer that can apply deep wound is the Deathslinger. When the Deathslinger lands a successful harpoon shot onto a survivor, they will have deep wound applied if the survivor breaks free from the chain, or if they get hit by Deathslinger's melee attack while they are still on the chain, like the Deathslinger reels in the survivor and hits them. Be aware that if the Deathslinger cancels the chain himself, no deep wound status effect will be applied, and no injury will occur either. The Deathslinger also has two add-ons that interact with the deep wound status effect. His very rare Barbed Wire moderately increases survivors' mending time when affected by the deep wound status effect. This add-on does not stack, and makes mending take about 15 seconds. The second add-on is the uncommon Poison Oak Leaves, which slightly increases survivors' mending time when affected by the deep wound status effect. This add-on does not stack, and makes mending take about 13 seconds. Now keep in mind, for every add-on that increases mending time, you can negate some of the slowness of the mending time by having another survivor mend you instead. The mending time will still be longer, but not as long as if you tried to mend yourself.
And that is the deep wound status effect. I hope this video has helped you out, and thanks for watching. If you have any questions, feel free to comment below. As always, good luck out there in the fog, and see you next time.